Money. That one thing that has never been loyal to anyone, yet everyone, from a beggar to a billionaire, is madly in love with it. Seriously, bro, this isn't just a piece of paper, it's a dangerous addiction. This very thing turned ordinary jungle hunters into blacksmiths, traders, and kings. People who once slept in mud were forced by this magical object called the dollar to live in 100-story skyscrapers. But have you ever thought deeply, where does the dollar's power actually come from? Who created it? When? Why? And the biggest question, what is money, really? Think logically for a moment. A piece of paper with no value of its own. You can't chew it to satisfy hunger. Apart from burning it to warm yourself on a cold winter night, it has no physical use. It only helps us understand the value of other things. We work like donkeys day and night for these scraps of paper. And what do we do at the end of the day? We hand it over to someone else. Suppose you open a Patreon or crowdfunding page to keep your historical research going and people contribute there. What are all these transactions actually? They're just digital numbers jumping from one screen to another. You receive a payment, then buy what you need with those dollars. This lifeless object roams the whole world this way and has turned us into its slaves. Do you have any idea how many dollars exist on Earth right now? The physical cash you can see is only about $40 trillion, and what you can't see, digital money, is around $1,300 trillion. That's $1.3 quadrillion. Bro, this number is so huge it wouldn't even fit on my calculator screen. So, where did all these countless dollars come from? Who built this system? Today, I'm taking you on a miraculous journey where we'll learn a history of currency you've never heard before. We'll find out how we went from stones to gold and silver coins, and finally to a currency you can't even see with your eyes. How did this lifeless thing become the only common language of the entire world? Everyone buckle your seatbelts, because we're going back 17,000 years, a time when there was no trace of currency. Primitive humans lived divided into small tribes. Their only life goal was to survive, protect themselves from giant animals, and hunt. But bro, ready-made prey isn't just sitting next to you every day, right? The stomach doesn't listen to excuses. This hunger forced one tribe to trade with another. They thought, bro, give me fresh meat, and I'll give you my sharp weapons. Win-win. Because if you snatch something from someone by force, you only get it once. Next time, they'll smash a rock on your head. And from this, the barter system was born. Hold on. You've read exactly this in your history books since childhood, right? That people first used the barter system, then coins came, then paper notes. Spoiler alert, bro. Whatever you were taught about the history of the dollar is completely wrong. Blatant lies. Don't believe me? Modern anthropology says no ancient civilization has ever been found that ran its entire economy purely on the barter system. Cambridge University professor Caroline Humphrey clearly stated in her research, no example of a pure barter economy has ever been described, let alone the emergence from it of money. So who spread this false story? Adam Smith, the one they call the father of economics. He wrote this story in his book, The Wealth of Nations, purely from his imagination. He thought, before money was invented, people must have exchanged one chicken for 5 eggs. The problem is, for this barter system to work, you need a double coincidence of wants. Let's say Bob is a baker and Ben is a butcher. Bob feels like eating meat today. He goes to Ben with bread. But Ben isn't in the mood for bread today. He needs a new pair of shoes. Now Bob has to roam the whole village looking for someone who has shoes but needs bread, then take those shoes to Ben to get meat. Bro, who has the energy for all that? It's completely impractical. So what's the real history? If people didn't barter, how did they trade? Here we have to go to ancient Mesopotamia, where present-day Iraq is located. Because that's where the real game started. When populations grew and people started farming, they realized it was getting really hard to remember who owed what to whom. That's when they started accounting. Yes, you heard that right. The idea of debt ledgers was born before currency. The people of ancient Mesopotamia wrote on small clay tablets to record who had lent how much wheat or meat to whom, meaning currency didn't start as a physical object or commodity, it started as a social measurement tool. If you gave someone a sack of wheat, they'd give you a clay token that meant, "I owe you the equivalent of 1 sack of wheat." This means the idea of money wasn't suddenly invented one fine morning. It evolved naturally with human thought and necessity, just like music, math, or language. But bro, you can't keep accounts on clay tokens forever. Especially when you're trading with a stranger or a merchant from another city, they won't just blindly trust your clay token. So people started searching for something with its own intrinsic value or rarity that everyone would willingly accept. And right here, commodity money began. People started using all sorts of bizarre things as currency, things that will blow your mind. Cows, goats, tobacco, salt, whale teeth, bottles of wine, shells, even bird feathers were used as money. During the Roman Empire, part of the soldier's salary was paid in salt, which is where the English word salary comes from. But the craziest commodity money in history was used by the people of Yap Island in the Pacific Ocean. They used rye stones. These were giant donut-shaped stone discs weighing up to 5 tons. They were so heavy that people couldn't carry them to the market, and stealing them was out of the question. They'd just stay in one spot, and people would verbally remember who the current owner of that stone was. In a literal sense, "Bro, I'll buy 10 chickens from you with half of that huge stone lying at the street corner." Unbelievable, right? But this commodity money had a big problem. Animals die, wine bottles break or spoil, and carrying a 5-ton stone in your pocket, let alone moving it, is impossible. On top of that, imagine you have a living cow as currency, but you only need 1 kilogram of apples. You can't exactly cut off a leg of that living cow and give it to the shopkeeper for 1 kilo of apples. People needed something durable, long-lasting, easily divisible into smaller units, and with a universally equal value. And that's when metal entered as the game changer. Around 2,600 years ago, the age of metallic money or metal coins began in ancient Greece. Coins started being made from a mix of gold and silver. These coins had images of lions or bulls engraved on them. People would toil day and night, maybe earning just 2 coins, which often wasn't even enough for proper food. The first official coin in world history was called the Lydian stater. Though some say the Chinese made bronze and copper coins first around 1000 BC, they weren't as widespread or organized as the Lydian stater. Once this Lydian stater hit the market, the whole world went crazy. Every empire's king thought, "What a brilliant idea. Let's make coins with our own faces and seals." Everyone started using coins because they were easy to count, easy to carry, didn't die like cows, and had a fixed value. But around 500 BC, a new headache began. By this time, overseas trading via sea routes had taken a massive form, and all this commerce ran on coins. But coins are made of metal, heavy stuff. More coins, more weight. Storing thousands of sacks of coins on ships wasted space, and transporting them from one country to another took forever. The biggest risk, carrying so many heavy coins by ship, meant a huge chance of theft by pirates or bandits. And even if not stolen, bro, who's going to sit and count millions of coins? We needed something lightweight, easy to transfer, store, and count. There's a famous saying, "Everyone likes progress, but nobody likes change." And that's exactly what happened with paper money. Welcome to Mongol China. Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, was the genius, or madman you could say, who created the world's first paper notes from tree bark. But as I just said, people don't like change. And why would they, bro? Kublai Khan was taking people's hard-earned and precious gold, diamonds, and jewels, and handing them a piece of paper made of tree bark in return. People were totally stunned. They thought, "Your Majesty, are you kidding us? This ordinary paper in exchange for real gold?" But Kublai Khan was Kublai Khan. He didn't entertain any discussion. He issued a direct decree. "Anyone who refuses to accept my paper notes will be beheaded." Done. Out of fear, everyone was forced to accept that paper money. But the real truth is, This wasn't just ordinary paper notes. It was called an IOU. The paper's real meaning was, you keep this paper, and whenever you want, come to my treasury and take the equivalent amount of gold coins. After a while, people thought, forget it. Why take gold with this paper and then use that heavy gold to go shopping? Let's just use this paper directly in the market. And that's how, like coins, the idea of paper money started spreading from China to the whole world. But unknowingly, people were about to give birth to a terrifying power that would be impossible to stop. And that power was the banks, the modern banking system. Because of paper money, international trade grew so huge that everyone now had these IOUs, or paper notes. And this is where a group of dollar-hungry, clever people entered. They started taking people's gold coins for safekeeping and gave out their own IOUs, or receipts, in return. People gladly accepted those paper notes because they no longer feared their gold coins being stolen, and the paper had no weight. But the real problem was elsewhere. These IOUs were just scraps of paper that those clever people could print as much as they wanted on their own printing presses. And you know how a bank creates dollars, right? Through loans. Those primitive mini-banks now started lending their freely printed IOUs to ordinary people. As a result, a flood of paper notes swept through the city. And this is precisely where the most terrifying monster of economics was born: inflation. Something that used to cost 1 IOU suddenly jumped to 10 IOUs. Because people now had lots of paper money, but the actual value or gold backing it hadn't increased. The banks didn't actually have enough gold coins to back all the paper notes they had spread around the city. One day, when people discovered this fraud, that the value of their saved paper notes was actually decreasing, they ran like crazy to the banks to get their real gold back. But alas, the banks didn't have enough to give everyone. People completely lost faith in banks. For many years, no one even spoke the name bank. People started hiding their gold coins underground or in corners of their houses again. This led to a drastic drop in money circulation in the market. A new disaster began. Then in 1816, Britain introduced a new law. They said, "We will print exactly as many paper notes as we have gold in reserve. This will prevent inflation and allow loans to be given within a limit." In history, this system is called the gold standard. Very quickly, every country in the world tied their currency to this gold standard. And finally, around 1900, America also adopted the gold standard. But is human greed ever satisfied so easily? If you have $100 million, why wouldn't you want $1 billion? No matter how much wealth we have, we always want a little more, just a tiny bit more. And driven by this greed, paper money was about to take a turn whose subsequent history is directly connected to all of your lives. There's a very simple but brutal rule in economics. If the amount of dollars in a country suddenly increases like crazy, inflation happens. Prices of goods skyrocket. As harmful as that is, if the dollar supply falls below a limit, you get deflation, which is even more dangerous. In the 1930s, America faced exactly this. Due to deflation, America fell into the Great Depression. Prices of goods dropped so low that companies couldn't earn enough revenue to pay their employees' wages. As a result, the whole country's economy crashed like a house of cards. People had neither dollars nor jobs, wailing everywhere. To escape this dire situation, in 1933, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt made a groundbreaking and highly controversial decision. He permanently severed the link between the dollar and gold, meaning the government no longer had to keep any gold reserves against the dollar. What exists now is purely paper notes, and seizing this opportunity, the banks reclaimed their lost power. They figured out how to manipulate this system to their advantage. That power is called printing money, creating dollars at will. And you know what happens when you print too many dollars, right? Exactly. Inflation. To control this, America created its central bank, the Fed, or Federal Reserve. Their job is to balance the money supply so it's neither too high nor too low. But bro, think with a cool head for a moment. That dollar which was once an IOU for you, against which you could get pure gold from the bank. What is it now? It is what it is. Now it's just a worthless piece of paper. It has no value of its own. And this type of currency is called in economics fiat money. Do you think only the US dollar is fiat money? No, bro. Every country's currency, whether our dollar, British pound, or euro, all are fiat money. There's no longer any gold or physical commodity backing behind these scraps of paper. Now, a huge question might pop into your mind. Bro, if this scrap of paper has no inherent value, how do we buy such expensive things with it? The answer is trust. Because we all collectively and blindly believe that if we give this paper, we'll get something in return. What's sitting in your bank, wallet, or locker is not physical money. It's purely a belief. And due to inflation, the value or purchasing power of that belief is decreasing day by day. Your saved $100 doesn't have the same value as $100 5 years ago. Paper notes solved a lot of our problems. They were easy to carry, easy to count. But in this super fast age, we needed something even faster than paper. While paper money was easy to carry, sending it from one country to another still took time, right? We needed something that could send dollars from one corner of the earth to another in a few nanoseconds. And that's how e-money or digital money was born in the 1980s. Transactions worth millions and billions of dollars now happen in the blink of an eye. No fear of theft, no hassle of sitting and counting. Banks don't even need to print notes anymore. Just type a few numbers on a computer and dollars are created like magic. Honestly, in this world of speed, we can't survive a single moment without digital money. With one click, we buy everything on Earth from home. Digital money travels from one corner of the globe to another in less than a second. But this digital money also has a huge problem. Hacking. Hacking a bank server may be tough, but it's not impossible. On top of that, your account's full control is in the hands of a third party, the banks. They can freeze your account anytime they want. And irritated by this fear of hacking and the central bank's control, a group of people thought about creating something that would give the entire financial system the finger. A currency impossible to hack. In 2009, a currency was born that literally shook the entire financial world. I'm talking about cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin. Credit cards, checks, online payments. These all operate under government rules and regulations. But Bitcoin? This is a currency that has absolutely no relation to any country's government. It's not connected to any fiat money or paper currency either. It's just some complex numbers or code in a computer. We only know the name of its creator, Satoshi Nakamoto. Beyond that, no one has ever seen him to this day. Whether he's human, alien, or some super intelligent hacker, nobody knows. Since no government has control over Bitcoin, it can be used very easily for illegal transactions. And illegal transactions mean an increase in crime. But whatever Bitcoin itself may be, the technology working behind it, called blockchain technology, is 1,000 years more advanced than our current credit card or online payment systems. Hacking it is truly impossible. To hack just one Bitcoin, even with all the world's most powerful supercomputers, it might take 1 billion years. Do you know, when Bitcoin was launched in 2009, the price of one Bitcoin was $0. In 2011, it became just $1, and in just a few years, the price of one Bitcoin shot to the sky. Now, whether this is a massive scam or a real way to get rich overnight, only time will tell. But take a moment to look back. Our world has changed so much in such a short time. In just a few thousand years, we've gone from gold and silver coins to a currency you can't even see. We built this system called money for our convenience, but today, perhaps we are completely losing ourselves to it. You work yourself to the bone from morning till night every day. What do you get at the end of the month? Just a few pieces of paper, or a few digital numbers floating on your mobile screen. You need to understand, this world doesn't run on dollars. This world runs on belief. What we're seeing is nothing but an illusion. Now the biggest question is, what should we do? Money is an inseparable part of our lives. The world can't run without dollars. First of all, you must learn to recognize real money. There's only one way to identify real currency. Something whose value increases over time is real money. The value of paper dollars decreases every year due to inflation. And honestly, this cycle will never stop. But you can beat this system if you want. You need to invest in places that have their own intrinsic value. You might have heard that if all the wealth or dollars on Earth were divided equally among everyone, within a few years those dollars would somehow end up back in the pockets of the previously rich people. But why? Because all the wealthy people on Earth understand the real game of finance. They don't work for dollars. Dollars work for them. They know the real equation of making money isn't selling time for a salary. The real equation is solving people's problems. The bigger the problem you solve, the more dollars you'll make. Amazon, Facebook, Google, they all solved some massive human problem. If a problem is worth $1 million, its solution will make you a millionaire. And if the problem is worth $1 billion, you'll become a billionaire. The day you understand this simple truth, your life will change completely. Instead of wasting time cursing the government, the system, and inflation, spend that same time on your own financial education. Because you can't change this whole system overnight. You have to change yourself. The more you learn, the more you earn. Guys, how did you find this bizarre and crazy history of currency? Definitely let me know in the comments. If you learned something new from this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Each one of your subscriptions motivates me to make more crazy documentaries like this. And yeah, hitting the like button makes the algorithm happy. And when the algorithm is happy, I'm happy. See you in the next video on some new mind-boggling topic. Until then, stay curious, stay awesome,